And on you go.
On you go, says Brian, the producer, and it's time for me to say hello and welcome to Gersnet, your independent Rangers podcast by fans, for fans, where all your content is absolutely free, coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson, and I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight, just after, about 12 minutes past 9 on the evening of Tuesday, the 17th of January, 2023, live on our YouTube channel to discuss all matters Rangers. We're going to have a brief review of the events at Hampden. The boys covered that in the main pod on Sunday. A brief review of the semi-final victory over Aberdeen, and then we'll get stuck into Michael Beale yet again. Mr. Chatty Michael Beale, another massively revealing or concealing press conference. There's always plenty to get stuck into when Mick does a presser. And of course, we'll have a look ahead to our trip down to Rugby Park, Kilmarnock, tomorrow night for a wee go on that kind of not in any way bouncy plastic pitch in North Ayrshire. Very lucky to say, yet again, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Brian Archer. Brian, you must be getting absolutely sick of the sight of me, mate. Thanks very much for joining me again. How are you?
Not at all. It's always a pleasure to be here, Ratty. I'm doing very well. Looking forward to tomorrow's game.
Yeah, Kilmarnock. Aye. I quite enjoyed having a season, not having to go down there. It was quite good, wasn't it?
I think it was the break from the pitch that I really enjoyed,
yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, I'm just getting, and I think, given everything that Michael Beale was saying today, I think we could all be, I think it's not just us that are enjoying a break for that pitch. I'm not even going to use the word break, actually. I'm just going to touch some wood while I'm saying that. Just especially as Kamal Roof's probably listening to this as he recuperates. Yeah. I don't want him getting an ear infection or something while I'm talking this. But listen, folks, as I say, it's just a quick and a special pod. We've got a lot of action on just now. We've got a free midweek next week, so you'll get a break for the likes of me. But as Rangers are stepping up the amount of games they're playing just now, we're going to step up the amount of pods to go along with that. And thanks very much to everybody for joining us. And I'll just, as we'd always say to you guys, if you just say subscribe or hit that like button if you haven't done already, spread the word amongst your pals all about the mighty Gersnet. It's not just me that's on it all the time, so sometimes it's actually quite enjoyable. We've got, as I say, got a wee look back. Aberdeen game with the main pod on Sunday night, and the boys covered that really well. Myself and Colin did a quick kind of reaction pod outside Hampden, and it was very nice after the one we had to do last year. After last year's semi-final against Hibs went completely the other way, it was nice to be back in the same spot. Reviewing a Rangers triumph, the fact that we're back in, I think it's our 36th League Cup final. We're drawn level. I think Celtic would get into their 36th League Cup final the previous day, but of course, we've won 7 more than them, and hopefully it will soon be 8. Brian, myself and Colin were kind of not particularly enamoured with the performance. I don't know if it was just the post-match nerves. That's what you get with a post-match reaction pod. Now the dust kind of settled a bit, but a few days to look back on it. I felt I was maybe a bit harsh on Rangers. I don't know if it's just the relief of the fact that we're in the semi-final. What was your kind of immediate reaction at full time on Sunday? Has it changed in any way over the last couple of days?
I think during the match I wasn't massively impressed. I was quite frustrated with how we played. I was kind of willing to cut them a bit of slack because of the pitch. That pitch was a disgrace for a national stadium. But, kind of immediately after the match, it was just relief to get through. I think, again, I'm still a bit frustrated. I still don't think that Aberdeen team are a great team, and I think we should have been capable of beating them in the 90 minutes quite comfortably. In my opinion, I think, we had the chances stuff, and I thought we should have been more than capable of creating more chances than we did. But, they dug in well. Obviously, I think Graham Shinney coming back here had a good game. He always seemed to play well against us when he was here before. So I think he seemed to give them that kind of dig in midfield that they needed, and they lacked in the previous games that we played them, certainly the one at Ibrox when we sort of cut through them. So I thought he did quite well for them, and he can help them put up a bit of a fight, but I was still a bit frustrated just with how we played. Some of the slack passing in midfield. Lundstrom really didn't have his best game at all. I think, again, Morelos looked sluggish and just unfit. I know we're kind of always talking about this, but it still seems to be that he's just kind of half a yard short of his peak form and fitness. Hopefully he can regain that at some point. I know Michael Beale's said that he's been playing through an injury that a lot of players wouldn't play through, so maybe we need to cut him a bit of slack for that. But ultimately I'm just relieved to get through, and I think that's the thing with semi-finals is you just want to get through them. Nobody remembers the losers of semi-finals, so you just want to get through by any means necessary and then get to that final.
I think it was the fact that we'd only won one of our previous 6 League Cup semi-finals, and so many Sundays, always a Sunday back at Hampden. It just felt that, and it was that kind of dark way it always is in the League Cup semi-final at the time of year it's played at, whether it be that November or into January. It's just kind of miserable in Scotland. And I think there's just so many bad memories. It was too many kind of indicators of the problems we had in the past at that stage of that competition, that I thought I was going to be absolutely elated that we finally got through and got back into another final. I know we got to the final in 2019, but just generally to be in a second final out of all these. But I didn't realise, as Colin was telling us at the end of the game, I think somebody else has said it to me as well, that chance that Aberdeen seemed to have in the very last kick of the ball in injury time or additional time, in extra time. It was actually, I think the ball had actually gone out of play earlier and it wouldn't have counted if it had gone in. But I turned around, I was nearly kicking the seat in front of me. Everybody's standing in the North Stand, but I was nearly booting the seat in front of me like an idiot. And I'm thinking that as the final whistle went, listen, with the sheer frustration, the sheer kind of, thank God that's done. How can you put me through that, Rangers? And I feel a bit of a spoilt git, and yet I've not been spoilt in any way when it comes to the League Cup over the last kind of 10 years. Yeah. I felt a bit kind of angry, and I felt a bit kind of ashamed of myself for being that angry. And I don't know if it was just the few whiskies I had when I got up the road eventually, and a bit later on when I eventually got up the road, or if it was just kind of sobering up, kind of spiritually. But I started to look at the game again. I watched the game again, basically all of it, and I thought we were only half as bad as I thought we were. The goal we scored, the first goal, Ryan Jack's goal, I think because it kind of went in with a deflection, I was thinking, oh God, that's typical the way this game's going. Yeah. I don't think I even really cheered that hard in the stadium at the time when we equalised.
I did.
It was really weird. I was just kind of so raging. It's just like, all right, finally, we've equalised. I know it's a terrible attitude. But I forgot.
I can tell you, Ryan Jack, certainly he loved that.
He ran right past me as well, It'd be like, and I did enjoy the celebration, I remember cheering like hell when the goal scorer got announced over the tannoy, cheering in a certain direction towards a certain support. But I really felt, that was a scrappy goal. That serves us. That's the way we've been playing. But when I watched that again, it's like the actual build up to the goal was beautiful,
Yeah.
And the thing that it's really difficult to say as a Rangers supporter these days because of so much of the toxicity that's pretty much one way from the Aberdeen supporters. They try to get our attention, like Leeds to Man United, trying to make it a rivalry with a far bigger club. It seemed, I don't know if we actually underrated Aberdeen. I know we're so frustrated. We always say Aberdeen raised their game. I know you're saying you don't think much of them, but bringing Shinnie in, he definitely made a difference for them. And when I watched that game back, just with the kind of a more mature head on me, knowing what the result was, I thought they actually played really well. And we've done the way things are at Rangers this season, how shaky we've been. I think Colin was talking about this at the end of the game, after the game as well, just to show the maturity to kind of not let that phase us. Because I remember Hibs last season having a particularly, they were just about to sack their manager in a few weeks' time. We just lost to us a few days previously, but they went out and just in a purple patch for half an hour, and that was enough to blow us away. In that League Cup semi-final. So for Aberdeen, I think they played really well in that game the other day. I'd be interested to see, do they actually, for a change, take this on and do it against other teams in the league and maybe in the Scottish Cup. Exactly. We're not expecting that, but I think a combination of them having played a lot better than I realised, Aberdeen, and Rangers not being half as bad as I thought we were. And just kind of getting through it. I feel a lot better about it. But the main thing is, I think probably the big talking point amongst the Rangers support, a few of us, myself included, felt Alan McGregor was kind of shaky to the point of being a liability. He's potentially as kind of culpable as anyone for the goal we conceded. We maybe thought he could have come out. Looking at it again, the telly, maybe not, maybe a bit harsh to say he should have been sprinting out just that far, just that quickly, to try and shut down the chance. I think Ben Davis is probably, if anything, even more culpable than Barisic. But we had Michael Beale today saying, no, Alan McGregor's going to play the majority of games this season for Rangers. And he also called him the best keeper in Scotland. What was your take on that?
I think to say at this stage that he's the best keeper in Scotland, he's maybe not far off it, but it might be stretching it to say that he's kind of as far out in front as he has been. I think seems like an obvious thing to say that this isn't the Alan McGregor that at his peak we know that he's kind of dropped off a level or two. For me, the decline started for me. I don't know if you remember the Hearts game at Ibrox last season when we conceded the last minute equaliser and he didn't come out for a corner. That to me signalled the sort of start of Alan McGregor's decline. Now, to be fair, there's no fault of him. You know, I guess Father Time catches up with everyone. You know, you can't go on for it forever. And we all thought when he made that kind of cameo appearance in the Scottish Cup final last season that was his kind of farewell. And looking back on it, maybe it should have been. Maybe that was the right time for him to hang up his gloves. Having gotten to a Europa League final and then went on and lifted the Scottish Cup, maybe that was the right time. But he's obviously felt he could do one more season. But I think the performances that we're seeing, it's maybe just one season too many. For me, it'll always be a Rangers legend. I don't think that'll ever be in doubt for what he's given us over these two spells. Certainly up there with the best goalkeepers we've ever had, and you know that's some pretty good company to keep, to be fair. So yeah, I'm kind of not surprised with the three options that Beale's got that he's still sticking with. McGregor's probably out of the three of them, he's the best shot stopper, I would say. You know, he's maybe not as comfortable as McLaughlin at coming off his line or, you know, commanding his box in terms of coming for crosses. But he's still capable, even now, of those kind of moments of brilliance that might not be as frequent nowadays. But he's still capable in a one-off game of pulling off those magnificent saves. And I think that's probably why Beale's still sticking with him. Hopefully it's, you know, something that can sort out for the long term. I don't know if Beale thinks Robbie McCrory's maybe kind of got the potential to step into that role long term. I'm not sure. I've not seen enough of him to say whether he has or he hasn't. Hopefully maybe we can see some more of him this season. I'd certainly be in favour of that, just to kind of have a look at him and see and assess him. And then if the coaching staff feel he's not ready, then we obviously need to go and find another solution. But I think Beale's kind of attitude towards it now is he thinks McGregor's the best of the three, so he'll be the one that'll play the majority of games. And I think he's openly said that he'll rotate them based on certain games. So if he feels maybe that McLaughlin suits a specific game, maybe he feels like he needs a keeper that's a bit quicker coming off his line for a certain game, he'll throw him in. Then I think Beale said that he'll do that. I think he said, or I think it was when he did the presser on Sunday, the embargo one, he said that, you know, in modern football, he feels like having a defined number one's maybe not the way to go. He thinks you should be able to switch up your goalkeepers for different games depending on who you're playing, the same way you would do maybe with a midfielder or a winger. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of plays it throughout the season. But he's certainly kind of given McGregor his backing anyway.
One of Michael Beale's kind of things just now, you and I were discussing his press conference style on Friday there, is that he likes to a lot of talk about playing the players off each other. He wants the players, you know, they talking today about them, they should look each other in the eye and, you know, outside the stadium or outside Auchenhowie or somewhere in the middle of Bearsden or Guy. I don't know exactly where he's wanting to stand outside and look at each other, but play off, you know, this is your rival for this spot. So it seems weird that he's thrown in almost saying, no, but McGregor, I prefer him. You know, but this is the one role that you can't, you know, a right back can play at left back, etc. You know, a striker can maybe go out wide or something like that. But, you know, a goalkeeper's just a goalkeeper. And this is the one, you know, where you really want rivals for the position. But he seemed to be kind of saying, no, McGregor's going to be the man. It felt like he was overcompensating because of the criticism he got on Sunday. And I think, for me, I think given the way that Barisic and Ryan Jack had berated the linesman on that North Stand side, hammed in that first half before Aberdeen actually scored their goal. It was a previous incident. They thought the ball had gone out and the linesman hadn't seen it. They should have been, or Barisic should certainly have been kind of switched on to not trust anybody to be ruled offside. He should have been covering that. I think Ben Davies' position was pretty terrible. So I wouldn't want to put it all on Alan McGregor, but he looks to me like a guy who's lost his mojo. He's basically got to that stage where he knows, you know, if you're firing shots, you know, slightly to the left, slightly to the right, he's going to have good reactions. But even the Macedonian fella, I forget his name, who actually scored the goal, he had that goal that was ruled out for offside maybe about 16 minutes into the game. The one that just kind of that kind of marked the turn. We'd been blowing them away, football terms, for the first kind of 10, 12 minutes. But that marked the slight turn, the kind of boosting Aberdeen's confidence that got them into the game. Majewski, that one he slotted into the top corner. I think that gave him the confidence because he's been having a bad run as a striker, and I think it just kind of contrasted with what was happening with Alan McGregor. It wasn't maybe his fault, but he knew he was going to get blamed, and I just felt as if any time it was about anticipating, it was about coming forwards, he looks stuck on his feet. He looks just kind of stuck to the spot. He can't move, and he looks kind of like he's scared of having. He's scared that the fact his powers have gone. That's a bit over dramatic, but and I think that spreads through the defence. But I'm not going to question Michael Beale, except that I am right now. We're talking about that press conference today. Talking about transfer situations, talking about the contracts that have got to be signed or renewed, whatever, for various players that we've got, and of course this horrendous injury list. It's a complicated injury list. We've got players coming back. We've got players that are we're in the middle of coming back, and now there's been setbacks, and we've got other guys who say it's unbelievable. And I think never mind what he said today and how much of it's true or not, and how much of a bit corny about him wanting players to go outside and look each other in the eye and fight for that spot, or given the number of unresolved kind of plain personnel issues, the still lengthy injury list, the key players' contracts running out in the summer, and we're over halfway through January, we still don't have any new signings in. I'm beginning to be seriously impressed by Michael Beale's ability just to juggle the variables in this squad and get a tune out the team on the pitch. Do you agree? Would you agree with that? Because I think there's so much going on. Every press conference, there's so much to discuss in terms of injuries, contracts, and a lack of signings, and yet he still keeps getting the team out there. They keep getting, 9 times out of 10, they're getting the win.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating because when you look at it, the reason Beale came into Rangers was because we weren't in a great shape in terms of, very rarely does a manager walk into a football club and everything's rosy. Usually when a manager walks in a football club, there'll be things to fix. And he's had to juggle, an injury crisis along with a squad that was massively low in confidence and that just weren't playing well at all. A fan base that was had started to turn on the previous manager. So we were kind of a bit, unhappy way in terms of recent performances. So he's had to juggle all that, and he's managing to, the performances aren't quite where he'd want them to be, but he's managing to get results. And at a club like Rangers, that's the main priority, especially when you're just in the door and you're still trying to get ideas across to the players and still trying to implement a style of football. And he's also trying to get players up to the level of fitness that he needs them to be for that style of football. So he's having to juggle a lot of kind of plates, and he seems to be doing it pretty well. In terms of the results, you can't really argue with his record just now. It speaks for itself. So, long may it continue. And if we can get a couple of signings in the door, I think that would help massively, because I think this squad just looks as if it needs some help in the form of some new players to come in and freshen it up.
It really does, doesn't it? And I think that's why I think, I say, Colin referred to this on Sunday, the fact that you can still see all the signs of how uncertain, the lack of confidence, what they've been through in terms of failures this season, it's still in their system. But the fact he keeps getting the wins out of them, albeit apart from maybe the Old Firm game, even to do it after extra time on Sunday, it's like every single game he's played, there's been massive problems, but there's also been massively impressive aspects to each game that he's been in charge of, massively encouraging aspects. But the one thing for me is it's almost like perfect laboratory conditions. You can see this team, as you say, is tired, they're uncertain of themselves, they're lacking in confidence, but you can see what Beale's doing to them to get them to keep winning. And I'm wondering if part of that is his press conference style, which seems to keep creating a kind of sense of forward momentum. And is he using little white lies to do this? Do you believe he was saying today that he was kind of tricked into, expressing, or giving out compliments about Everton's Tom Davies, and he's no longer, he never was a target? Do you think that's true, or it was just a nice way of him? Because to me, I think it was a week or so ago, he seemed to be saying Tom Davies and Todd Cantwell the same kind of statement. It was like, I like the two of them, and it was a classic manager speak for, we're talking to them, but I just can't confirm it.
The thing that gave it away for me is the fact that he actually compared Tom Davies to one of our own players in John Lundstram. I think he said, the quote was, he said that Davies had a bit of the John Lundstrams about him. So that sort of gave it away to me that it was a player we were looking at And now he's kind of backtracked. I'm guessing that they've maybe spoken to him and couldn't agree terms, but he was wanting more than Rangers willing to offer or something. But I do think there was an interest there. I think, those names don't just kind of get plucked out of the hat. They obviously come from somewhere, and I think there was genuine interest there that's maybe not what came to fruition, unfortunately. But a couple of signings would really lift the mood and just freshen things up a bit. I think that the players need it as much as the fans at this point, to be honest, with the amount of injuries we've got and just tired legs. I mean, we know we've got, many players playing through injuries just now. It's been well documented. Lundstrom's having to have injections. Kamara needs an operation at some point. Ryan Jack's had to do 120 minutes there, and his injury problems have been well documented. Alfie's playing through injuries. It just feels like we need 2 or 3 players in just to help this squad and just to kind of get performance levels to where Bill needs them. Maybe he's talked about the interesting phrase that he uses. He wants to raise the kind of technical quality of the squad by bringing players in. That's quite interesting, that he's kind of almost saying that, the players need a bit of help to get them to where I need to get them to. So hopefully in the last 2 weeks of the month, we'll get the players in that he's looking for.
I thought it was interesting that they were talking about how the team was a bit kind of hesitant, a bit uncertain on after Sunday, and then we had Scott Wright today saying that we're a lot calmer than we were earlier in this season, and we know we can get our way back into games. I thought that was a perfect. It's obviously starting to cross over. The team themselves are starting to feel the Beale effect, but it's like sometimes they need it. When they're on the park, it's almost like they need to have headphones in, and Michael Beale can give them a kind of ongoing half-time team talk. Like almost kind of positive reinforcement. You deserve to be in that.
If we explored that option,
exactly. Well, it's probably worked better than the VAR did at Hampden anyway. It's worked better than the referee's headphones. But there's definitely something going on. He's definitely got a touch of the guru about, and I'm wondering if that's what it is. Just if he has to kind of smooth things out, tell a wee lie here and there, that's all right by us to keep things going. I also wonder, we're talking on Friday about him more or less, it sounded like he was putting pressure on the board, putting pressure on Ross Wilson in particular, where he was saying, I've done all I can do.
Yeah.
Might just have been a kind of poor choice of phrase, but he seems to choose his phrases, his phraseology pretty carefully. So I don't know if he's maybe been told that's not happening and you owe me one. And by the way, Bill, you better go out there and just say it never happens. We were never interested in him. I don't know. You can read too much into these things, but he all but confirmed that negotiations to bring Cantwell in from Norwich are going well, and he also told us this Swansea's kind of Morgan Whittaker, who's just finished a very successful loan period with Plymouth Argyle, albeit in League One. I think he scored something like 9, 11 goals or something in the kind of first half of the season, than the EFL down there, and Plymouth doing really well as a result of that. And he said, I think he said, Bill, he's a player we know. I think he's a good player. Again, unsubtle way of saying I can't say anything official, but I definitely.
He doesn't really keep his cards close to his chest, does he, Michael Beale? I bet he's got a terrible poker face. You just seem to ask him a question and then he just kind of spills out. He can't keep it in.
I know. Are you happy? You thinking, is this a kind of player we should be looking at? Some people are kind of turning their nose up saying it's only League One he's been playing in this season, albeit Swansea, the Championship club, and that's a good level down there.
I think Joe Aribo came from League One, didn't he?
Exactly.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Josh Windass also came from League One. Aribo certainly clearly made a profit on him, and I think Josh Windass did as a turn. To be fair, whether you like his personality or not, it's another story. But I think he on the field he did as a turn. So I don't think we can turn our nose up at players just because they're coming from League One. I'll be completely honest, it's not a player I'm familiar with. I've not even did the obligatory look him up on YouTube thing, so I can't really say comment on him as a player, to be honest.
You've got to get on Patrick Caskey's Twitter feed. That's the place to be for information. And any player readers are interested, and definitely check that out for the hard stats. But it sounds like he's kind of like a forward/winger, And I think Beale was mentioning the same. He quickly went on to talk about how Ryan Kent, amongst others, is hasn't renewed his contract. He goes out of contract in the summer. So it seems to me like he's one of these players who's going to kind of play in a front three behind a main striker, or could double up as being the main striker.
Yeah, he also fits the profile, I think, that Beale likes, in terms that he's a young player, and Beale said before he's very much a development coach. He likes to get players in that he can develop and mould. He obviously comes from that background of, youth development. So I think he fits that kind of profile in terms of what Bill's looking for. Bill seemed really keen on the kind of development side of the game. He said numerous times that he sees himself as a development coach, and he's really big on that, taking a player and identifying what they need to improve on and helping them improve. So hopefully he's seen something in him. Problematic question. Michael Beale's judgment on a player. He's forgot more than I'll ever know about football. So yeah, I'll back him on this one, to be honest.
And Kamal Roof, his injury, again, it's absolutely unbelievable. In Sunday, Kamal Roof getting injured. That's what I said to Colin at the time. It was the most typical kind of Kamal Roof performance ever. He comes on as a sub, scores a winning goal with a touch of absolute class, and then he goes off injured. And we're worrying when we're going to see him again. Again, it's a kind of shoulder injury. It's not it's not dislocated. There's no breakage or anything like that. But they were taking for tests at the time of the press conference today, and Beale was saying, obviously, a phrase that must be used all the time. Once we'll find out once he's had his scan. This seems to be the kind of stock phrase at Ibrox these days. But find out just exactly how bad it is. But expecting him back in weeks rather than months, they were saying. But a lot of Rangers fans actually, they're angry at Kamal Roof, going by social media. Actually angry at Kamal Roof for getting injured, as if he does it on purpose. I find that kind of strange, do you?
Yeah, it sort of baffles me. I think that comes from, two things. I think, firstly, as we all know how good he can be. So I think we're all just kind of saying that, think ourselves, if only he could stay fit, he'd be, first name on the team sheet type of thing. Because I think he is, one of the kind of most natural finishers that we've got at the club. I think we've seen that in his goal at the weekend, that kind of striker's instinct of just to hang back a bit and wait for the pullback and then just effortlessly guides it into the back of the net. It's probably not something that we see a lot from Alfie in terms of that kind of cool and calm finish. Alfie's more of a kind of head down and smash it type of forward. And then, the other thing I think is we've obviously seen and we know of players that, if they get a kind of broken toenail, they won't play. So maybe there's kind of people out there thinking that Kamal Roof's got a bit of that. But personally, I don't think so. I don't think he's one of these players that, will kind of declare himself unfit if he's, got a sore hand or something. He's one of these players that I think he wants to be on the pitch. Of course he does. And he's just really unlucky. It's just I guess the sad fact of the matter is if Kamal Roof could stay fit, then he probably wouldn't be at Rangers. I think that's become the matter.
That's become the kind of staple phrase around him, isn't it? We've all had to kind of accept that. And you're right, he doesn't play like a man who's fragile. I was kind of cruelly saying to my pal Diane in the pub afterwards on Sunday that he's a bit. It reminds me of that kind of M. Night Shyamalan. There's a film. It's Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson's Unbreakable, and it's the guy who's got, I think it's brittle bone syndrome or something. Every time if he trips up, that's him. He's in hospital for months, and he's starting to remind me of that. But it's not his fault. I mean, is the Slavia Prague goalkeeper's forehead nose? He throws himself into every tackle he possibly can. That's part of why he's so brilliant. And I look at him, it's a bit like a bullseye. He's what you could have won. I just think if we could have had one more minute out of Kamal Roof last season, I think we would have won Europa League. What he did when he came on just showed what we could have done. If we'd had one more month at him, we could have won the league as well, I think. And it really is. I get that it's frustrating thinking, but I think that kind of comes into what I was going to ask you next. I think that's how we get players like Roof and Hollander from Bologna. We got him, and he was absolutely immense when he's fit.
Yeah.
And we now have this kind of situation. We've got like a striker. Alfredo Morelos isn't fit enough, but he's great at leading the line. And then we have Antonio Colak, who can put the ball in the back of the net in a way that Alfredo can't. Whereas Alfredo can lead the line in a way that Colak never can. We've got a goalkeeper who's great at shot stopping, but is rubbish at crosses, and McLaughlin's great at crosses and what have you, but isn't as good at the shot stopping. It seems to be we have this whole thing going on where we'll get so many the injury list as well. I will keep going about it. Like Tom Lawrence, was just becoming absolutely superb, becoming essential. I think that's a loss. We haven't happened to our centre halves this season. It was epic, the losses at centre half. What happened to Tom Lawrence has been kind of overlooked. We've got Hadji, so he's due to come back, and then he isn't. Even Cholak this week, it's like he's coming back. Oh no, we can't because he's going to be playing the plastic at Rugby Park. With all this kind of stuff, Bill's doing really well to juggle it all and keep getting a tune at the team. But with all this uncertainty, this is before you throw in the lack of signings that have arrived and the lack of contracts being signed on the amount they're probably going to be terminated in the summer. Is there any kind of possibility we could even win the League Cup against Celtic? Far less kind of like claw back the title with so much uncertainty around the first team squad.
I mean, I think we can win it in a one-off game. We proved last season in the semi-final were more than a match for them. In fact, we proved, just a couple of Scott Ibrox that were more than a match for them. So I'm definitely going into it with confidence that we can lift the trophy. You're right, there is a lot of uncertainty. I'll say it again, a few signings wouldn't go amiss, would certainly help kind of ease that situation. But hopefully by then we'll have a couple of players back. I think Hadji's due to return in a couple of weeks, so I think if he comes in and gets up to speed, he could be a real difference maker. I think we have actually missed him when he's been out. He's one that can get numbers in terms of goals and assists. So I think he could bring something if we can get him up to speed fairly quickly. Tom Lawrence, the update on him didn't sound too promising today. He kind of a bit non-committal about that. I do worry if he's going to become the Jordan Rossiter, he'll be back in 7 to 10 days type of thing. That's my worry on him, because we've seen it when he was fit. He was, brilliant for us, to be honest. He was kind of the signing of the summer until he got injured, and it looked a fairly innocuous injury. It happened just in front of me at Ibrox. And I remember when it first happened, Gio at the time kind of said it was nothing to worry about, and then it's turned into this, major problem. So it's a bit of a worry, definitely. But hopefully we can, despite all the kind of injuries and things like that, kind of rolling around, we can go to Rugby Park tomorrow and Michael Beale can pull off another masterstroke and just get another win. I think that's all we need to do now. We just that old cliche thing of game by game and just get the wins.
Aye. Talking of which, as you say, Kilmarnock at Rugby Park tomorrow night. That's Wednesday the 18th of January 2023, 8 o'clock kickoff. It's live on Sky Sports. The sight of Graham Shinney kind of bustling about that Aberdeen midfield on Sunday kind of brought back memories of Derek McInnes' side, that frequently annoyed us in the Steven Gerrard era. That combined with a return to the horrors of Rugby Park's kind of brick of a rubber pitch, a surface, a venue that gave Gerrard and Beale no end of pain. It could make us forget Kilmarnock are second bottom, Brian, actually second bottom of the league just now. North Ayrshire is a lot closer than Dingwall, because Ross County are at the bottom of the league at the moment. If we had to be anywhere other than Ibrox this midweek, is this the best option, going to Kilmarnock tomorrow night? I
think so, yeah. I think we obviously know that Ayrshire's also got kind of plenty of Bears in it as well, so we should have plenty of supporters at Rugby Park as well, so that'll help. The pitch is obviously, we always talk about that when we go there, but the one thing I will say about the pitch this time is it won't actually be the worst pitch we played on this week, so that's interesting. It says a lot about our national stadium.
Yeah, I think the players might actually be glad of a kind of true bounce.
Yeah,
So I think we've showed great character under Beale, like I was saying, winning all but one match since he's returned to Ibrox and taken on the job of manager. He's still undefeated. Is this the moment? At the moment, kind of waiting for, it's going to go one of two ways, I think, in this run under Beale. Every game, I think we've had like 40 to 45 minutes where we've been great, and it might have been like a solid half like we had at Tannadice, or it's kind of dotted about the game, different parts of the game like we had on Sunday. Is this the moment tomorrow night where they properly slip up for the first time? They actually just, it all goes wrong when we drop some points and that's it, the league title's almost officially over? Or is this going to be the moment we turn up and we put on a properly commanding display first and second half?
I think it'll be a bit of a grind. I don't think we'll slip up. If I had to kind of nail my colours to the mast right now, I think we'll win, but I don't think it'll be a kind of swashbuckling, we'll just blow them away type of performance either. I don't think you'll ever get that at Killie on that pitch. I think it'll be a bit of a grind, a bit like Tannadice, where we might need to grind it out a bit, and then hopefully let our kind of superior quality show through. To be honest, it'll be interesting to see the team he goes with. suspect they'll want to make a few changes just because so many players did the 120 the other day. You wonder how many of them have got another 90 in their legs, so you wonder if he'll look to ring the changes a bit, and that might also play a part in the result. If he makes too many changes, that could backfire. If he doesn't make enough, it might also backfire because there might be a few of them there that's looking a bit leggy. So it'll be interesting to see the team he goes with. We know we've got a long injury list, so he might not have the options that he would want to change it. I wonder if it's maybe a game for Alex Lowry. Maybe that's one I would maybe throw out there to see. Could we see him start?
Yeah.
That would be, I'd actually be keen to see that the more that I think about it, just to add a bit of freshness and a bit of energy and a bit of dynamism and creativity into the midfield that we've kind of been lacking. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I think we'll win. I don't think it'll be a classic. I don't think we'll be in any massive rush to rewatch it, but I think we'll get the win that we need, and it'll be on to the next one.
The fact that Ryan Jack played the full, he played the full 120, didn't he?
Yeah.
On Sunday there, and Ryan Kent as well. And of course, Ryan Kent never gets dropped, but I thought actually Ryan Kent was a bit. I think having watched it back, as I say, the game on Sunday, I think he could actually felt a bit aggrieved at not getting man of the match. But I was glad that Ryan Jack got it for the sake of the Aberdeen fans. But in Rugby Park, I think even before Stephen Gerrard arrived, but he said, right. I remember Graham Murty going down there. I think it was the first game he was officially manager. He'd officially been appointed, kind of permanent manager. We went down there. And we always seemed to take the lead, and then we would, just throw it away in this series of games under. I think when Gerrard I think the first time we went to Rugby Park under Stephen Gerrard, it was a League Cup game, kind of Septemberish, and Alfie.
Was that the one Alfie scored the goal by? Was one of the goals with the one where he kind of nicked it off the keeper? He kind of waited behind the line where the keeper was about to kick it, and then he nicked it off him. I remember that one was at Rugby Park. Sounds
a bit right. I know he'd won like that at Dingwall, where the goalie made an absolute hash to get Fox. He snuck in behind him, I think. But the one I always remember at Rugby Park was he scored it was a perfect hat trick, left foot, right foot header. Yeah. And I think he scored a perfectly good fourth goal as well in that game. And he thought, right, this is going to be fine. And thereafter, it was just. I think vast majority of games at Rugby Park have been an absolute nightmare. So hopefully that'll change them having a little spell in the Championship. No Cholak's going to be risking the Rugby Park plastic, and the manager says James Sands is going to take Roof's place, and the only kind of predicted difference to Sunday's squad. But he was drawn into a comment. It was Derek Clark, I think the Rangers Review, talking to him today at the press conference, asked him if there's any chance that with Cholak not being there, Roof being injured, any chance that maybe B team strikers Robbie Ure and Zach Lovelace had a chance of getting into the team, and he kind of responded kind of tartly with they're playing this afternoon. They've got a chance to impress, and it turned out the two of them actually scored. Both Ure and Lovelace scored against Partick. That was a 5-1 win in the end over Thistle for the B team in the Glasgow Cup. Alfredo still slow. I think he did a lot better than I initially realised. I think the bit that summed up for Alfredo on Sunday was when he was trying to claim for the ball being over the line, because that was easier than following up for a rebound. I'm just going, I'm knackered, so I'm going to stand here and appeal that the ball's over the line rather than walking the 2 yards to actually get the ball and try and kick it over the line. He's still sluggish. Do you think there's any chance that either of these two boys starting?
I don't think either of them will start. I think it'd be a massive risk to start them up there. But I wouldn't be opposed to seeing them in the squad. Certainly Lovelace, I think he's been doing really well at the B team. He's kind of in that stage in his career where he's maybe probably too good for the B team but not quite good enough for the first team. So it's whether he kind of brings him into the squad, and maybe if the game's going our way, brings him on for the last kind of 15 minutes. I would be all for that, to be honest. I'd be all for more of that, just generally with the youngsters, just seeing a bit more of them in the first team if results allow us to give them kind of 15-20 minutes at the end of games. I think Lowry's a bit different in that I sort of consider him now as a first teamer, whereas with Lovelace and Robbie Ure, they're still kind of B team players for me, but they're maybe at that level where they're getting to the point where they're too good for the B team but not quite good enough for the first team. So I'd be all for seeing them kind of come on for the last 15-20 minutes. I think you'll probably go with Morelos up front just because we physically don't have any other options at this point. So I think that'll be he'll go with, but I'd be all for seeing them come off the bench.
I mean, but to be patient against Kilmarnock, we played them at Ibrox in the league. I think it was back in August. Eventually beat them 2-0. I think it was Cholak wrapped it up late on. Didn't take lead until the second half. But Kilmarnock racked up like kind of six bookings, like 6 different players. And that look of the kind of systematic thing that Aberdeen would do under McInnes, where everybody would take a single booking, kicking somebody. That kind of attitude on this kind of surface tomorrow night. Maybe Kilmarnock still feeling a bit aggrieved, a bit angry at what happened to them on Sunday. More kind of angry perhaps than they are knackered after their exertions on Sunday at Hampden, the decisions that went against them. Everybody, there's plenty to see for everybody watching that game. Do you think maybe on a kind of on that surface on a freezing January night, there's a danger we're going to get a few maybe some suspensions or even some injuries, more injuries ahead of the cup game at Perth on Friday?
It's definitely a danger on that pitch. Certainly the injuries, that the kind of memory that always springs to mind when we talk about that pitch is Jamie Murphy's injury. That potentially robbed him of some of the best years of his career, to be honest.
Absolutely.
So you want to avoid that at all costs, to be honest. And I think that's just another argument for not having plastic pitches in the top division, but I guess that's another debate for another podcast. So I think it is something that we need to be mindful of, certainly with the players that played the full 120. Do you want them going straight into the next game being on that pitch? Would you rather protect some of them that are more injury prone? I'm thinking Ryan Jack specifically. Will they maybe think, I'll protect Ryan Jack a bit from that pitch since he's just done the 120 and possibly bring in Kamara or maybe even a Charlie McCann or Alex Lowry. So I think it will be in his mind, the injury thing. I think it was always in Gerrard's mind after that Jamie Murphy injury when going up there. So it adds another kind of note of interest to the team selection.
I'm got a suspicion he's just going to go same starting 11 as Sunday, and just hope that we can get in a position by half time, maybe even an hour, where it's comfortable enough that we can start rotating.
You also wonder if he has one eye on the game at the weekend. That's obviously a cup game, so
that's it.
You could argue with the way the league is positioned, does he prioritise the cup over the league position? But Rangers fans are never going to concede the league, so we still have to be winning our league games. Obviously, we can't fall any further behind in the league. So he's kind of in a bit of a no-win position. We just need to get the win at all costs.
We had the whole week off last week. No midweek game last week. There's no midweek game next week. But this really intense period, we've thrown extra time, and of course, as you say, Kilmarnock have had basically 20 odd hours extra rest, and they didn't play the extra half hour in their League Cup semi-final on Sunday. Do you think, I know they say the fans will never give up. I certainly don't want us to give up. We'd like to have a wee pop at this Celtic team in terms of the league. I'd like to see them start shaking a bit. Do you think, though, this kind of level, all these injuries we keep talking about, the exertions subliminally, maybe subconsciously, the players might just start thinking in the back of their mind, if it's too hard tomorrow night, if Kilmarnock are right up for it, the conditions aren't suiting them, we're into one cup final, let's just be a cup team this season. Do you think there's any chance they'll let it go?
I think if you'd asked me under Gio, I might have said yes. But under Michael Beale, they've shown a bit of a different mentality when if things aren't going their way, they've shown that ability to just roll their sleeves up. Tannadice springs to mind, Tibbs at Ibrox springs to mind, where they've turned it around when it's not been going their way. So they've shown that ability to dig in when they're not playing well or they're maybe behind and get the result. So I think Michael Beale's had a bit of a mentality shift in the squad, and that they won't give up. And they'll keep fighting if it's not going their way or maybe they're behind. So that, for me, that's definitely positive signs. We need to not be going behind so often, to be honest. We're kind of doing that a bit too much, but it is a kind of good trait to have, where if you go behind, you've got that ability to just dig in and still pull out the result. So hopefully that will stand us in good stead as well. And
of course, they've been stood outside all day looking at their opponent for their position. Ready to
fight.
Michael
does seem to have a thing about looking people in the eye. He said that about signings. He's like, I want to look them in the eye.
I'm thinking, it's absolutely freezing out there, Michael. Don't have them standing outside before they go to Rugby Park, So they'll have to fight their opponent for their position, and there'll be obviously a good dozen or so signings before the end of the January transfer window. But back on planet Earth, Brian, thanks very much for joining me, my friend. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks to everybody for joining us this evening for that quick wee pod, preview of events at Rugby Park tomorrow night. We will be back myself and Brian, but this time Brian will be hosting, so it'll be a much tidier pod. It will go a lot more smoothly rather than me ranting and raving. But don't forget to just check us out on Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, or Spotify, wherever you get your pods, folks. Thanks very much for joining us, and we will see you on Friday, and enjoy the game at Kilmarnock. Good night.